Welcome to the Cheating and Love Tales channel. You knew that I was so. You used to say it after I came back from the army, late at night, reeking of sweat, and something burned in my eyes. You'd stroke my hair and whisper, "You're so different now." And I'd nod, not knowing what to say. My chest felt tight then, as if a weight pressed inside my rib cage, and sometimes I thought it would just stop. But it never did. It kept going, day after day, year after year, until I forgot what it meant to be free from that dull ache. Now it's back, sharper than ever, spreading across my sternum like frost on a windshield. Except, this time, it's not about wars or mistakes or regrets. This time, it's you. I remember the exact day it started. My back was stiff from fixing the garbage disposal earlier that afternoon, and all I wanted was to sit in my chair, slip off my boots, and let the news drone on TV. That was the plan until I clicked the computer mouse one time too many. A misstep of technology, maybe the smallest error a man could make, set my world on fire. I saw your chat window pop up, your name on the screen, the flicker of text. I didn't mean to click it. I didn't even know we were still signed in on that thing. I never go into chat rooms or social media spaces. I've always felt they're for other people, people who have more time, more interest in small talk and glossy illusions. But that day my hand slipped, and there I was, faced with sentences that felt heavier than any bullet I've ever handled. You wrote, "I still remember the smell of cedar and snow on our eyelashes, your laughter. We were so real once." I read it 3 times, convinced I'd misunderstood. Another message came through, from him, whoever he was. "I dream about it too. You were my life." And you answered, "We were real. We were alive. Real. Alive." I heard my pulse thrumming in my ears. The lines blurred on the screen. I tried to blink away the anxiety. I kept seeing the word cedar. I closed my eyes, clutched the edge of the desk. Cedar. Winter. Some boy's laughter. Not mine. I stayed at the computer for what felt like hours, rereading all your words. Each new message was like a small cut on my skin, 1,000 stings building to something unstoppable. Your voice in those lines wasn't the voice I knew. You sounded younger, lighter, full of longing and hope. You told him about the nights you spent looking at old postcards, about remembering the way he teased you in the snow, about your beast, and how that was your private joke. The lines glowed, and all I could do was grip the mouse so tight my fingers went numb. I felt a chest pain, faint at first, then swelling. I had to breathe slowly, like I was back in training, focusing through the pain so it wouldn't knock me down. I didn't say anything to you about it. Not that night, not for a whole week. I let the wound fester inside, day after day, as we went through our routines. Breakfast at the kitchen table, me reading the newspaper, you reminding me the oil in your car needed changing. Our granddaughter was visiting that weekend, and I made silly jokes with her, trying to keep my voice steady. All the while, I was chewing on the inside of my cheek, replaying those messages. I thought about confronting you, demanding the truth. But something told me to wait. Wait until it became impossible for me to keep it in. Eventually, it got there. I remember it was a Tuesday. The house was quiet because you'd gone out for groceries, and I found myself in the attic, looking for an old photo album of the kids. They wanted pictures from when they were little, some nostalgic project. Our children are grown now, with families of their own, so the attic is full of our leftover memories. I found the album near the bottom of a dusty box. I was flipping through pages, our eldest with his baby bottle, me in my army uniform, you in your wedding dress, when I saw something tucked behind the last page, a postcard. One side had a picture of a forest, tall evergreens shining under a winter sun. I turned it over, and in nearly illegible scrawl, saw these words, "Yours very Uga." The letters shaky but defiant. The postmark, dated the year before we got married. I touched the ink, half expecting it to smudge, as if it were still fresh. The paper smelled faintly of smoke, maybe the attic's dust, or maybe an old memory burning its way back to life. I realized I was trembling. I read the note over and over. Yours very Yuga. I recalled your chat, how you call him my beast, and how he called you something similar. I closed my eyes, tried to piece it together. For a heartbeat, I forgot to breathe. Cedar, snow, laughter, something from before me. Something you'd carried all these years, in secret, hidden behind the photo of our wedding. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to cry. I just stood there, alone in the attic, hearing the thump of my heart. My chest burned. It was time. I took the postcard downstairs, set it on the kitchen counter. I waited for you to come home. But when you finally walked in, smiling and juggling grocery bags, I lost my nerve. You set the bags on the counter, kissed me on the cheek as usual, and started to talk about the neighbor's fence. I nodded, made some grunt of acknowledgement, and pocketed the postcard. I couldn't do it yet. Something else happened that afternoon. After you put away the groceries, you checked your phone. A text lit up your face in a way I'd rarely seen in years. You looked happy. In love. But not with me. That night, I lay awake thinking about everything. A swirl of regrets and anger coiled together in my brain. I heard you breathing beside me, and I tried to imagine what you were dreaming. Was it him? That forest? Snow eyelashes? Something about me once. Something about us. I felt an ache so deep it felt like my body was being hollowed out. Instead of raging, I got up. I walked to the garage, found a small can of white paint and a brush. I grabbed the stepladder and set it up in our bedroom. You stirred, half woke, then drifted back to sleep, probably thinking I was just being restless. I climbed that ladder, heart pounding, knuckles tight around the handle of the brush. Then, over the cracked paint of our old ceiling, I wrote in big, uneven letters, "You didn't kill me. I did it myself." White paint on white background, the sentence almost invisible until you look closely. By the time I finished, sweat dripped down my spine, even though the night was cool. I stepped back, paint splattering on my fingers, the fumes stinging my nostrils. I felt something inside me break, or maybe it was that an emptiness filled up with those words. When you woke in the morning, you saw it. You didn't say a damn thing. But you looked at me with this strange expression, like you knew I'd found the postcards, the messages, everything. You just made coffee, and I changed the oil in your car. Life went on. But at night, every time we lay down, we both saw those words overhead. You stared at them as if they were condemnation. I stared at them because I had nowhere else to look. A few days later, I spoke. You ever think about our wedding day? I asked. My voice was quiet, measured. We were in the kitchen, washing the dinner plates. You paused, looking at me like you were waiting for a blow that might never come. Of course I do, you answered softly. Don't you? I wanted to say something about cedar, about the smell of snow. Instead, I said, you used to ask me a question. Once, do you remember? Your face turned cautious. I asked you a lot of questions, Matt. I gripped the edge of the sink. You used to ask if I could see myself growing old here, in this house with you. You nodded, eyes downcast. Then your phone dinged. A text. You pressed your lips together, turned off the water, dried your hands, and left the kitchen without a word. I stood there, my arms elbow-deep in soap suds, half laughing, half raging inside. I wanted to die. That's what it felt like. I wanted to vanish from the face of this earth, let the chest pain swallow me whole. But I didn't, because, ironically, something in me wouldn't let go, some twisted part that needed to see your face when you realized exactly who I was. I guess you never knew. Even after all these years, you never pieced it together. Maybe I should have told you right from the start. But I was too young, too stupid. And then we got married, had kids, built a life. You were so certain that I was just some polite, unremarkable soldier boy who'd stumbled into your world. You never recognized the laughter that once echoed in your dreams. You never questioned the details when I told you about my hometown, how I spent one winter in the mountains, or that time we nearly froze on a bus ride. I never told you everything, and you never asked the right questions. Eventually, you forgot. You buried that memory of the boy who called himself your beast. You replaced it with me, your dutiful husband, father to your children, the stable presence who'd fix the plumbing and mow the lawn. And me, I let you forget, because I was afraid. Maybe if you discovered I was that same reckless kid, you'd realize how far we'd drifted, how we'd lost that spark. I convinced myself that your ignorance was for the best. Then I saw your chat messages, read your longing for Zveriuba, the boy you thought was lost forever. I felt every wound open up again. The strangest thing is how you wrote that you never forgot his laughter, that teenage laugh in the snow, the smell of cedar from his jacket. But you never suspected it was me. One day, I needed to see it with my own eyes. The phone chirped again. This time, you left it on the coffee table. You were busy in the yard, pulling weeds. I picked it up, hoping maybe you'd set a lock, but you hadn't. The chat window was open. The messages. I'll be in town next Saturday. I can't wait to see you. We can finally talk. Let's not waste any more time. We were so alive. My hand shook. Part of me wanted to fling the phone across the room, smash it to bits. Another part felt a hollow acceptance. I guessed you were planning to meet him. And I wanted to see. I wanted to know just how real it was. Saturday came. You told me you were heading to the library for a volunteer event. I nodded, didn't protest. I offered to drive you. You declined. You left in the morning, wearing a dress that was a bit nicer than usual, a spark in your eyes. I watched from the window as you backed out of the driveway. My chest constricted again, that old familiar pain, sharper this time, and I grimaced. Let's see how far you go, I murmured. I got in my car a few minutes later, staying 2 turns behind you. You drove downtown. Not to the library. No, you passed that exit without even slowing. You ended up at a small motel near the highway. I parked at a diner across the street, feeling a sick mix of curiosity and dread. It didn't take long. I saw you meet him in the motel parking lot. Gray-haired, maybe your age, lean frame, a certain confidence in the way he moved. He took you in his arms, and you melted against him like you belonged there. I tried to breathe, but each inhale felt like shards of glass. Through the diner's dusty window, I watched you walk inside, hand in hand. I don't know how long I stayed there, knuckles white on the steering wheel. 20 minutes. An hour. The idea of you two alone in that motel room with your hearts pounding made me feel both hollow and murderous. My mind conjured images I didn't want to see, your lips on his, your hands on his shoulders, a warmth between you that I hadn't felt in years. The chest pain pressed down like a truck. But I waited. I had to. Eventually, I saw him leave, checking his phone, a satisfied smile curling on his lips. Then you came out, hair slightly disheveled, your cheeks flushed. The tension in your posture looked half guilt, half excitement. I could imagine the smell of sweat in that room, the mix of your perfume and his breath. You had that dreamy glaze in your eyes, like someone who had tasted euphoria and was already longing for another taste. And me. I clenched my teeth, adrenaline punching through my veins. Suddenly, that slow burn inside me erupted in a burst of action. I didn't plan it, but I found myself stepping out of my car, crossing the street, ignoring the beep of horns when I almost stumbled in front of traffic. I marched right up to you as you stood by your car, rummaging for your keys, lost in your own world. Sarah, I growled. You looked up, startled. Your eyes flicked in panic, glancing at the motel, at your watch, anywhere but me. Matt, what are you doing here? The question sounded so stupid it made me want to laugh. You volunteering at the library. My voice was tight, trembling at the edges. You couldn't speak. The color drained from your face. I saw your chest heave with each breath. I was. Save it. I cut in. My fists were clenched. I forced them to relax before I did something I'd regret. Why here? Why him? You swallowed, trying to find words. It's not what you think, you whispered, voice cracking. We just caught up on old times. I spat. Nostalgia. That what we call it these days. You looked away, tears pooling in your eyes. We were young once, you said, your voice trembling. There was something I never got over. Anger flared in my veins. So you chose to fix that now? Like this? After all these years? You blinked rapidly, tears threatening to spill. I never meant to hurt you. It was such a cliché line that I almost laughed. You didn't kill me. I echoed my own words. I did it myself. Your eyes darted to mine, confusion laced with fear. Then you remembered the ceiling. You started to speak, but I stepped closer, towering over you. I took a shaky breath. Let it out. Get in your car. I said, voice uneven. Go home. You hesitated, searching my face. Matt, I'm sorry. Just go, I said. We'll talk later. You opened your mouth again, then gave a single nod. You turned, got in, started the engine, and drove off. I stood in the lot, feeling the summer heat bake through my shirt. When I finally looked back at the diner across the street, I saw him, a silhouette through the glass, leaning on the counter, sipping coffee. He was watching me, maybe wondering who I was. I stared back, letting him see my face. Then I turned, walked to my car, and drove home. That evening, the house was thicker with tension than I'd ever felt. You tried to act normal, but your hands shook when you passed me a plate for dinner. I said nothing, stabbing at my food, swallowing what felt like shards of betrayal. In the silence, I could practically hear your heartbeat. Mine pounded so loud it drowned out the clock on the wall. Finally, you cleared your throat. We should talk. I set my fork down. Talk. You swallowed. Dan was someone I knew a long time ago, before you. We were kids. We had this thing. It was intense, but it ended abruptly. I never got closure. I closed my eyes, letting that sink in. And you needed closure so badly you'd sleep with him. Your cheeks flushed with shame. I didn't plan that, you said quietly. It just happened. Like some accident, right? Silence. You had no answer. I stood up, walked over to the window, stared at our yard. I saw the tire swing we'd hung for our grandchildren. The mailbox I'd built by hand. Memories that once felt warm now soured in my chest. Do you love him? I asked. My voice sounded far away, even to me. You hesitated. I don't know. I felt the chest pain clench again, a cold sweat trickling down my neck. Then what the hell do you know? I demanded, turning around to face you. You told him you remember cedar and snow. You told him you were real, that you were alive back then. Don't you feel alive now? Or did I suffocate you? Your eyes flickered. I'm sorry, you said again, tears shining. I don't know what to say to make this right. I stared at you, feeling something inside me teeter on the edge. There it was, your confession, your remorse, your confusion. I'd built up this rage for days, weeks, maybe years. Now it threatened to explode. A frantic, suffocating pressure pounded in my skull. Ask me the question, I said abruptly, my voice trembling. You blinked, tears falling. What question? I clenched my fists at my sides. You used to ask me something, whenever we fought. You'd look me in the eyes and say, don't you love me anymore? I let that hang in the air. Ask me now. Your lip quivered. Matt, you breathed. Don't you love me? I felt tears burn my eyes. I pressed my hand to my chest, as if that could hold back the pain. But it burst through anyway. Yes, I said raggedly. Yes, I do. That's the worst part. I love you so damn much it feels like it's killing me. You crumpled onto a chair, burying your face in your hands. It was the first time in years I saw you this broken. The rustling of the air conditioner filled the silence. My heart pounded, a hammer in my ribs. I let you cry. I didn't reach out or comfort you. I just stared at the woman who'd spent decades at my side, the woman who had carried a secret that turned our marriage into something else. I stood there, saying nothing, thinking I might die then and there from heartbreak. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I glanced at it, saw a message from a number I didn't recognize. For a moment, I thought it might be a spam text, but I opened it. Unknown. If you're her husband, we need to talk. Meet me tomorrow, 3 p.m., Lakeside Park. Dan, he must have found my number somehow. Maybe you'd mention me. Maybe he asked around. My blood heated, anger flaring anew. I set the phone down, turned away so you wouldn't see the message. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. If he wanted to talk, I'd let him. I didn't tell you about the plan. Next day, Sunday, I said I was meeting an old army buddy, left the house without further explanation. I drove to Lakeside Park, a place we used to take the kids when they were small. The midday sun was too bright, reflecting off the water, making me squint. I scanned the area until I saw him. Dan Sullivan, leaning against a railing near the lake. He wore casual clothes, jeans, a collared shirt, but he gave off the same air of confidence I'd seen at the motel. He noticed me approaching, stood straighter. "You must be Matt," he said, offering a nod. "Yeah," I replied, not bothering to shake his hand. I stood a few feet away, crossing my arms. He exhaled slowly. "Look, I'm not here to fight you. Sarah and I, we have history." "So I've heard." My tone was ice. "Congratulations on picking up where you left off. Must be nice to barge into someone else's marriage, decades later, to scratch an itch." His jaw tightened. I didn't intend to cause trouble, but I couldn't pretend I didn't still care about her. I never forgot her, not for a day. Something inside me twitched. That was the line I read in the chat logs. I dream about it, too. You were my life. I wanted to knock him into the lake, but I forced myself to hold still. You don't think about the consequences. You don't think about me, the man who's been with her all these years, raised children with her. He lifted his gaze, meeting mine. I do. I'm sorry, but sometimes life doesn't turn out how we want. She told me she wasn't happy anymore. Those words hit me like a punch in the gut. I clenched my teeth. If she told you that, it's because she forgot who I really am. He frowned. What do you mean? I leaned closer, voice dropping. Let me share a little secret, Dan. This boy, she remembered, the one who had that special name, the smell of cedar in his clothes. His eyes narrowed. Yeah, Zveryuga. She used to call me that. My breath caught in my throat. So that's what he thought. He believed he was the beast. I almost laughed. So you think you're the one? The teenage fling in the forest. The laughter in the snow. He seemed taken aback. I don't just think it, he said defensively. She told me stories. We spent time in. You're not listening, I said, voice trembling with barely contained fury. She has you confused with someone else, or you're lying to yourself, because that boy was me, not you. I felt heat rising to my face, and for a moment, all I could do was exhale. She doesn't know because I never told her. I left her that winter. I had to go into the army. Then my life changed. By the time I found her again, she was a different person. She didn't remember my face, so I just played it safe. He stared at me, disbelief etched across his features. That doesn't make sense, he said. Sarah and I, we've shared memories. Memories you twisted to fit your own narrative. I snapped. Did you meet her in the mountains? Did you take her behind a logging mill? Did you carve your initials into that old oak tree? No, you didn't. I did. And she's so blinded by your sudden appearance, by the romance of reliving her youth, that she can't see what's right in front of her. His expression clouded with confusion. But she always spoke of me as that boy. We reconnected online months ago. I recognize her name from a fling you had, maybe, I said, stepping closer, my voice low. Or from some stolen moment. But you weren't the one who gave her that memory of cedar. That was my father's old jacket. I wore it all winter. It reeked of cedar oil. She'd bury her face in it. She said the smell reminded her of Christmas. She used to say. My voice broke off as I realized I was ranting, pouring my heart out to a stranger. The chest pain flared again, and I gasped for air, bracing myself on the railing. Dan looked alarmed, reached out a hand. I batted it away. Stay back, I hissed. I breathed in, slow and steady. The pain receded to a tolerable ache. The point is, you have no idea what you're meddling with. You think you're giving her something she's missing. You're not. She's chasing a memory that belongs to me. She just doesn't know it's me. Dan pressed his lips together. I could see the conflict in his eyes. Maybe he believed me. Maybe he didn't. Finally, he looked away, the lines around his mouth tightening. Even if that's true, he said quietly, she let me in. You can't deny she needed something more. I swallowed, my throat dry. I don't deny it, but you should walk away now, for your own good. He stared at the lake. Ducks drifted by, oblivious. A hush fell. She deserves happiness, he said at last. Happiness, I repeated. Sometimes happiness is an illusion we conjure to mask a deeper emptiness. He flinched at my bitterness. After a moment, he cleared his throat. I thought she was the one who used to call me Beast. My memory's not perfect. There was a girl in my past, but I guess maybe I confused the details. I smirked, though no humor touched my eyes. You got your wires crossed, or maybe you wanted it so badly you talked yourself into it. He didn't answer. We stood side by side in silence, the sun reflecting off the water, turning it a blinding white. Finally, he said, "What happens now?" I stared out at the glare. Now, I go home. I wait for her to figure it out, or I end it first. His gaze fell to his shoes. I'm sorry, he muttered. I'll respect whatever she decides. I scoffed. Will you? Or will you be there, just a text away, feeding her illusions? He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. I told you, I do care about her. I let out a breath, turned on my heel, and walked away. I didn't look back. When I got home, you were sitting at the kitchen table, your hands fidgeting around the old album. The page with our wedding photo lay open, the postcard with yours very yoga resting on top. You stared at it, eyes red from crying. I knew you'd spent the day raking through your memories, trying to piece it all together. Where were you? You asked softly as I entered. Went for a drive, I answered, noncommittal. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, crossing my arms. You picked up the postcard, studied it. I found this again, you said. I remember the day I got it. I remember being so sure it came from someone. You paused, unsure. Someone else, I supplied. You looked at me, your gaze searching my face. I don't remember everything so clearly anymore. But I know we were in a forest. I can still picture the snow falling, landing on his eyelashes. We laughed so much. My father was furious about me sneaking out that night. I thought I'd never feel so free again. My throat tightened. That memory means a lot to you, doesn't it? You nodded, tears gathering in your eyes. I spent years trying to find him, writing postcards, telling myself I'd never let go of that magical moment. But I never found him. And then you appeared, and you were so stable. I guess I decided that boy was just a dream. You swallowed, voice trembling, and then Dan reached out online, and I swore it had to be him. I let myself believe. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. But you were wrong. You bit your lip. Dan said you told him something. Is it true? Was that really you? I nodded, my jaw tight. Yes. I wanted to tell you 1,000 times, but you fell in love with the version of me that you thought was new. I was afraid if you knew who I really was, it would break the spell. Or maybe I was a coward. Your breath caught. Matt. Why? I closed my eyes. My chest felt like a furnace, searing every nerve. Because you never recognized me. And I thought, maybe that was a sign you needed a fresh start. I didn't want to ruin what we had by dredging up old teenage memories. I was naive. Stupid. You stared at me, tears sliding down your cheeks. I can't believe this. I felt my own eyes burning. Do you remember the cabin behind the old logging station? I asked softly. The broken window we climbed through to get out of the cold. You scraped your knee, and I wrapped it with my bandana. You told me that day you'd never forget my laugh, that it made you feel safe. Your lips parted in a silent gasp. It was you. Oh God. It really was you, wasn't it? I nodded, a tear rolling down my cheek. Yeah, I said, voice ragged. It was me. All along. You bowed your head, tears dripping onto the photo album. For a moment, no words passed between us. Then you forced yourself to look up. I'm so sorry, you whispered. I hurt you. And I betrayed you. I sank into a chair, exhaustion crashing over me. Yes, you did. We sat there in silence. Time felt frozen, as though the house itself held its breath. Finally, I heard you speak, voice trembling. Can you forgive me? The question hung in the air. My heart thundered. Did I even want to? Part of me wanted to pack my things, walk out, never look back. Another part wanted to hold you so tight that all this pain would vanish. I'd loved you from the moment we first met in that snowy forest, and somehow, through decades and misunderstandings, that love had persisted, though battered, though bruised, though overshadowed by heartbreak. I don't know, I said at last. I really don't. You choked on a sob, covering your face with your hands. I understand. I studied you. The lines around your eyes, the silver threading your hair, the wedding ring that still circled your finger. You always asked me, don't you love me anymore? I murmured. You lifted your gaze. And I swallowed hard. I do. That's why it hurts. You nodded slowly, tears shining. Then, what happens now? I exhaled, wrestling with a storm of emotions. We can't just pretend this didn't happen, I said. We can't go back to how it was. Too much damage has been done. Maybe I'll never trust you the same way again. You winced, as if struck. I'll do anything, you whispered. Anything to mend this. I let out a harsh laugh. Words, I said. You lied with words too. So I need time. A lot of it. You bowed your head in acquiescence. I'll give you time. A silence followed. Then I remembered the line I'd painted on the ceiling. You didn't kill me. I did it myself. I realized it was never about you killing me. It was about me letting my own fears, my own secrecy, erode our relationship. Yes, you'd betrayed me physically, but I betrayed you emotionally, by withholding who I really was. We were both at fault, in different ways. I didn't say that though. Maybe I would one day. For now, I just sat there, feeling drained and oddly at peace. Days turned into weeks. I slept in the guest room. We barely spoke beyond practicalities, meals, bills, scheduling visits with the grandchildren. The tension was thick, but I could tell you were trying. You stopped checking your phone incessantly. You left it on the counter, in plain sight. You tried to approach me a few times, to talk, to cry, but I wasn't ready. That chest pain still lingered, though less suffocating. Maybe I'd found a way to breathe around it. One evening, I came home late from a drive, just rolling around country roads, letting my mind wander. I found you in the bedroom, standing on a chair, scrubbing at the words on the ceiling with a brush and detergent. You'd been crying, tears running down your cheeks as you tried to erase them. Stop, I said quietly, stepping into the room. You looked down at me, the brush shaking in your grip. I thought, maybe if I got rid of these words, it'd help. I shook my head. It won't. Leave them. You stared at me, face streaked with sorrow and confusion. I climbed up beside you, gently took the brush from your hand, and set it aside. Then, because something in me couldn't hold back any longer, I embraced you. You sagged against me, sobbing into my shoulder. I held you, tears burning my own eyes, letting the moment wash over us. I'm so sorry, you kept repeating, voice muffled against my shirt. I know, I whispered, pressing my lips to your hair. I know. We climbed down from the chair, hearts pounding. For a moment, we just stood there, uncertain. Then, in a burst of raw emotion, you reached for me. Your hands trembled as they slid around my waist, and I lowered my head to kiss you, a tangled rush of longing and anger all mixing into one. Your lips tasted salty from tears, your breath shaky with regret. My mind flashed to that motel image, your disheveled hair, his touch. Part of me recoiled, but I found myself pulling you closer anyway, drawn by the memory of that forest in the snow, the laughter we once shared. We stumbled backward onto the bed, the overhead light casting harsh shadows on the ceiling. The words I'd painted glowed faintly in the electric glare. My heart hammered. This was different from any intimacy we'd had in the last decade. Urgent, desperate, almost savage in its need to reclaim what was lost. Your fingers dug into my shoulders. I felt your body trembling with sorrow and yearning. My own emotions threatened to choke me as we tumbled through half-remembered passion. I didn't delve into fantasies. I didn't pretend we were kids again. I was painfully aware of every line on our faces, every scar on our hearts. Our touch was messy, not the smooth choreography of newlyweds, but there was a rawness to it that made me want to weep. I could sense your shame, your desire, your apology in every breath you took. And in the moment when we locked eyes, I felt something shift. A flicker of hope that maybe we weren't entirely beyond saving. We collapsed side by side, breathing hard, silent tears on both our cheeks. I stared at the sentence above us. You didn't kill me. I did it myself. I brushed a strand of hair from your temple, noticing how your gaze followed those words. Matt, you whispered, voice thick. I want to fix this. I pressed a kiss to your forehead. It won't be easy. We might not even make it. You swallowed. I don't expect easy. But please, don't leave me. I closed my eyes, that ache flaring in my chest again. We'll see, I said, my tone low. We'll just see. Life after betrayal is a slow, grinding effort. We went to a counselor twice a week, an older man who barely spoke, scribbling notes while we stammered through half-truths and awkward confessions. We'd leave each session raw, driving home in tense silence. But gradually, we started talking about the real stuff. Your old postcards, my army secrets, the memory of that snowy forest, how I'd stayed quiet for so long. Sometimes, I'd catch you crying at night, reading an old letter or staring at that postcard with yours very Yuga. I didn't stop you. I figured it was part of your reckoning. Meanwhile, Dan sent you one more message. I saw it on your phone one day while you were in the shower, the screen lighting up. He said he understood if you needed space, that he wouldn't contact you again if that's what you wanted. You never replied. I guess that was your answer. One rainy afternoon, you came to me while I was in the garage, tinkering with my tools. Do you want to talk about it? You asked. I glanced at you. About what? About how it felt, you said, your voice quiet, to realize I slept with him. I set down the wrench, wiped my hands on a rag. My jaw tightened. You sure you want the truth? Your eyes glistened. Yes. I rubbed the back of my neck, the old tension creeping in. It felt like someone carved out my insides, like my life was a joke, like everything I'd worked for was worthless. You pressed your lips together, nodding through tears. I continued, voice wavering. It made me want to die, Sarah. That's the honest truth. I thought about What if I just ended everything? Then I remembered we have kids, grandkids, and I couldn't leave them that way. So I stayed. But inside, I felt dead already. You stepped closer, tears rolling down your cheeks. "I'm sorry," you said for what must have been the 100th time. "I hate that I made you feel that." I took a shaky breath. "Yeah, well, that's the cost of an affair." Silence hovered. The rain drummed on the garage roof. We stood there, letting the harsh truth settle. Then you laid a hand on my shoulder, gently turned me to face you. "I'm here," you said softly, "if you need me to listen or scream at me, or anything." I nodded, letting out a long exhale. "Thanks." Time marched on, as it always does. We kept living in that house. The white letters on the ceiling remained, a silent testament to the darkest chapter of our marriage. We started to talk more openly, about resentment, about aging, about the spark we'd lost. We acknowledged that we both had a hand in burying the things that once made us feel alive. One day, out of the blue, you brought me a small gift-wrapped box. Inside was a carved cedar wood ornament, shaped like a tiny pinnacone, with a short note. "So we never forget." I felt my throat tighten. It was your way of saying you finally understood. That day, for the first time in years, I felt the chest pain recede into a distant throb. Maybe forgiveness was possible after all, even if I couldn't declare it yet. We took small steps, day by day, rebuilding what we could. Our adult children noticed we were different, more guarded around each other, but also more honest. They commented that we seemed quieter, but kinder, as if we were nursing old wounds. They didn't know the full story. We didn't tell them. Maybe one day we would, but not now. I kept waiting for that moment when I could say, "I forgive you." It didn't come quickly. Some nights, I'd wake drenched in sweat, haunted by images of you in that motel room with him. The smell of cedar teased my senses, blending with the memory of your teenage laughter. I felt like two men. The boy you once loved in the snow, and the husband you betrayed as an adult. Reconciling those two pieces of myself took more strength than I knew I had. The final blow, the closure we both needed, arrived unexpectedly. Dan sent a letter to our house. A real letter, not a text or an email. You showed it to me the moment it arrived, your hands shaking. We opened it together at the kitchen table. "Dear Sarah and Matt, if you're reading this, I'm leaving Colorado for good. I realized I was holding on to an illusion of who I thought you were. I'm sorry for any pain I've caused. Matt, I hope you'll understand. We all deserve some kind of peace in this life. Good luck to both of you." Dan. After I read it, I felt a wave of relief wash over me, mingled with sadness. You let out a soft sob, covered your eyes. I reached for your hand, and you gripped my fingers. We sat there, neither of us speaking, tears making quiet trails down our cheeks. In that moment, it felt like we could finally close a door that had been left open too long. We went to the backyard, found the old charcoal grill, and set the letter alight. We watched the paper curl and blacken, the flames licking away Dan's words. Ashes scattered in the breeze, carrying whatever illusions remained out into the empty sky. Then we stood there, side by side, the smoke drifting upward, the sun setting behind us. Slowly, you slid your arms around me. "Thank you," you whispered, voice tremulous. I pulled you close, kissing the top of your head. "For what?" "For not giving up," you said, tears in your eyes. "For still being here." I thought of the anguish, the betrayal, the silent war we'd wage. I remembered that teenage boy, the winter forest, your laughter under the falling snow. I remembered my own heartbreak, how sure I was that I'd never feel whole again. The chest pain was still there, but it was dull, like an old scar that proves you've survived something terrible. "For better or worse," I murmured, "I'm not done yet." We walked back inside, to the bedroom where the ceiling still bore my angry scrawl. The letters were faded now, from the weeks of your attempt to scrub them away. from the passing of time, from the subtle wear of daily life. You stared up at them, eyes reflecting a mixture of guilt and tenderness. "Should we finally paint over it properly?" you asked, voice trembling with uncertainty. I studied the words. "You didn't kill me. I did it myself." Then I took your hand, gently, and shook my head. "Not yet," I said softly. "Let it stay a little longer." You nodded, tears glittering. We climbed onto the bed and lay there, shoulders touching, both gazing at that half-visible line. After a long while, I turned my head to you, brushed my hand across your cheek. You closed your eyes, pressing into my touch. "I'm still here," I whispered. "I don't know if I can ever forget what happened, but maybe remembering is part of moving forward." Your lips trembled into a tearful smile. "I understand." Then we fell silent, listening to the hum of the air conditioning, the faint creaks of the house settling around us. We lay that way for a good while, the tension slowly ebbing, replaced by a fragile sense of hope. It wasn't a fairy tale ending or some triumphant victory. It was just real, a raw, honest moment between two flawed people, a moment that tasted like life after pain. We weren't the same as before, and maybe that was okay. Eventually, I shifted closer and kissed you, softly, as if we were starting over. You returned it with gentle caution, your eyes filled with uncertainty and love. The thought rose in my mind, warm and steady. We might just survive this. Or, at the very least, we'd face whatever came next together, scared but not destroyed. That night, as I drifted off, I felt the ache in my chest fade a little more, replaced by a quiet resolve. I wouldn't waste the life I had left. Even if I once dreamed of dying to escape this pain, I realize now that there was something worth fighting for, a chance to reclaim what we lost, or to build something new in its place. I breathed in, slowly, letting the stale air of old secrets leave my lungs. Then I exhaled, and as I did, I felt a small, tentative peace settle in my heart, like the promise of spring after a brutal winter. We lay there under the faint marks on the ceiling, the only light coming from the moon through the blinds. Not every pain is visible, but it still eats away at you. And yet, somehow, I was still here, blood pumping, heart beating, chest rising and falling in tandem with yours. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive. And that was enough.